Mr. Brad Ackman was Front Sight Nevada Operational Manager and Handgun Combat Master for over 17 years until the company was sold. Ackman's curriculum of gun and safety training surpasses the gun training levels found through the NRA, law enforcement, and military communities.
Hi, my name is Jessica Blackshear. I'm here with Brad Ackman. Nice to meet you, Brad.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Most definitely. So tell us about yourself.
Well, as you said, my name is Brad Ackman. I'm Chief Operating Officer and Director of Training of Firearms Training Academy, or FTA, and also Metaverse Firearms Training Academy, or Meta FTA.
Okay.
So the role that I'm playing here today is in fact to talk about, well, FTA and Meta FTA.
Right. Exactly. Wow, that's beautiful. What is your firearms training background?
So I was born and raised in a gun family. My dad was a hunter, so he had shotguns. He was a bird hunter. But I didn't know anything about the defensive use of firearms. That was just unfamiliar to me entirely. And a friend of mine, in fact, one of my very best friends, got into a gunfight. He was attacked by some nutcase. This is back in April of 1982 when I was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
So this gunfight ensues. I mean, it is complete mayhem. And I had the realization that if this can happen to one of my best friends, literally within a mile of my house, that this could happen to me. And so I kind of played that out in my mind. How would I have done? What would I have done? And the answer is, I probably would have completely locked up. I wouldn't have done anything. I didn't know anything. So I quickly came to the realization that I needed training. So I sought out the best training that was available at the time, and it was under the late Jeff Cooper, who was in Arizona. So I signed up for my first course. I took a number of courses under Jeff Cooper. That went on for a few years, and then I became a staff member there. In fact, it's a point of pride that I was the youngest instructor ever hired under Jeff Cooper, and then I was there for quite a while, in fact about a decade, serving as an instructor under Jeff Cooper. So that was my start. And at one point, a student came through whose name was Dr. Ignatius Piazza. And I didn't know him from straight up, but he was of similar age to me, similar enthusiasm, similar interests. So we hit it off quickly. We became very good friends. And at one point, he pulled me aside and he said, hey, I want to kind of roll out my vision. And I said, for what? And he said, for creating the world's biggest, best private firearms training facility ever, to eclipse all others. And it was such a huge vision that it seemed kind of dreamy, frankly. But he asked, would I like to participate in that? And hell yeah, of course, I was excited. It took a while to find a facility where we could actually train. So now fast forward to April of 1996, and we opened up at a leased facility in Bakersfield, California.
Oh, wow.
So that's with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute is the name of that organization. And that was in existence for about 27 years, I think, something like that. And I was Chief Operating Officer, Director of Training, and all kinds of other hats that I wore during that tenure. We sold Front Sight back in November of 2022, as I say, after about 27 years of operation. So that's a pretty long history for me in the world of firearms training. In fact, that's almost 40 years of involvement in the professional firearms training industry. So that's the long-winded answer about my firearms training history.
Well, that's a good explanation. 40 years is a very long time.
That is a long time.
So tell me, how are you still relevant?
Relevant, that's a good question. In fact, it was about 6 months, maybe a year ago, I was on YouTube. I frankly don't spend a lot of time on YouTube. But this one came to me. Somebody said, hey, you got to watch this. So I click on this video, and it was a firearms instructor who's now retired. He was notable 15, 20 years ago, but now he's, yesteryear material. And somebody asked him a similar question. Why are you still relevant? And he thought about it for a second, and he said, because I'm still here. And I thought, what?
Answer.
Because you're still here? I thought, that's embarrassing. I mean, that's like a case of herpes or a bad tattoo, something that just won't go away. I mean, just longevity doesn't cut it. So I started thinking, well, how am I relevant? And I'll tell you why I'm relevant. And that's because my students are still here. All right. Now, by that I mean, After 40 years, I've had the honor of training right at 1 million students, which is huge. I mean, that is far more, to the best of my knowledge, I'm pretty safe on this, far more than any other firearms instructor has ever done, ever. Even, turning back the hands of time 20, 30, 40 years, nobody has had the luxury of training that many students. And I have, because I've been in just the right place at the right time. So having trained 1 million students, that is such a large number, such a large database, that I can say this next thing with certainty. And the students are still here. They are alive and well.
Wow.
What I teach works. It saves lives. It prevents gunfights. So what I teach will always be relevant. It's not about me. It's about what we teach, and more importantly, about what the students receive and take home and put into use day in and day out. So why am I relevant? I'm only relevant because the students are still here, and there's 1 million of them out there. They're doing the right thing. And I tell you honestly, that is such a huge point of pride for me that I'm glad you asked the question.
Oh, well, I'm glad I asked the question too. So what is Firearms Academy training?
Right, so Firearms Training Academy, or FTA, and Metaverse Firearms Training Academy, Meta FTA for the shortened versions, are in the business of enlightening and training those who do not know what they do not know. We've heard that, that expression before. Basically, what that means is you're ignorant to the information because you've never been exposed to it. Not that you're mentally slow or your head's buried in the sand. You've just never been exposed to the information, and therefore you don't know what you don't know. And there are billions of people on this planet, right? Obviously, billions of people, many of whom are interested in guns, almost none of whom know a thing. They don't have a clue about how to properly use guns. So what we want to do is change that. We offer world-class firearms training on 3 different stages. All right. First is the internet with structured, detailed, internet-based, kind of website-based training courses. Just that's first. Second is the metaverse, where we offer both training and recreation/entertainment. Okay. And finally is at a physical facility where we offer professional, hands-on, live fire training. It's kind of the brick and mortar, on the ground version of firearms training. So those 3 stages, if you will, are what we do at FTA and Meta FTA.
Our Meta Firearms Training Simulator has been customized to teach you all of the proper hand techniques, loading, unloading, cartridge ejection, muzzle fire, haptic recoil, and more. Go from basic target practice to having an actual perpetrator to challenge your retention of course materials. Our virtual range has been developed according to mine specifications in accordance with proper range protocols. Programmable dynamic targets are yours to control based on your level of performance. After successfully going through our Metaverse course, users will now get access to our Metaverse City. Enjoy realistic immersive VR graphics are waiting for you, as well as many adventures that'll require you to use all of the skills learned in the course. There will be realistic simulations throughout our Metaverse City that can prepare you for real-world situations and scenarios. Don't think of our Metaverse world as a game. Instead, think of it as more of a way of training beyond the typical brick-and-mortar gun range. VR simulation is here.
That sounds beautiful, guys. This is just amazing, having training and the safety, and having people come here and learning about this training is very important. It's important for everybody. Oh, thank God for Brad, right?
I wouldn't go that far, but thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So what is the FTA's mission?
So that's kind of, I hit on some of those points, but just to kind of encapsulate what is our mission at Firearms Training Academy is to expose as many people as possible worldwide to the safe, efficient, and dare I say, legitimate use of firearms, whether in the metaverse or online structured training or in our real world live fire environment. FTA offers every law-abiding citizen on the planet, frankly, the opportunity for world-class firearms skill and enjoyment. So that's what we do at Firearms Training Academy. I know it sounds big and almost like ethereal, right? It's like over the top. But it's not over the top, because that is a real world assessment. There's billions of people who want to participate, and it is a huge market. It's a demand that has not been filled, and frankly, we're here to fill it.
Oh, well, we have to fill something, right? But make sure it's good, right? So how's FTA better than other shooting schools?
I would say in a number of ways, but let me hit a couple of points that come to mind right off the bat. Our first priority at FTA is safety. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but I assure you that safety is not universal in the gun world. We all need to handle firearms safely, or the consequences are literally disastrous. Right? So everyone needs to ingrain the proper gun handling techniques, whether that person is young or old, new or experienced, using haptic guns or real guns. I mean, it doesn't matter. This applies to everybody. Plus, proper gun handling is not only safe, but it's professional. Right? So, and I mentioned also the efficient use of firearms. By that I mean Meta FTA teaches you the best and the fastest ways to achieve your goals. Whether your goal is online recreation or, frankly, defending your family in a moment of dire need, you'll have the necessary skills. So, Jessica, your comment about what we teach at Meta FTA, and of course my response was this principle of avoidance. That actually brings to mind three other things. One way to avoid the gunfight, really the principal way, is by use of the color code of mental awareness. And the color code of mental awareness is this easy color code system that allows you to see that problem brewing. You see what's going on around you. You just have a heightened mental awareness. And if you can see that problem early, then you've got options. I mean, for example, maybe you can just walk away or get on your cell phone and dial 911. But that color code of mental awareness is a huge first step. Without it, you will never see the fight brewing. You'll never see the problem coming towards you, and you're going to lose. You're going to lose because you don't know it exists. It's simply in your lap. You're way behind the power curve. You have no hope. So it all starts with the color code of mental awareness. We also teach tactical movement to stack the odds in your favor. So once you see that problem brewing, again, you've got some options. In addition to walk away or dial 911, maybe you can get some cover or concealment, or at least distance, or maybe put a barrier between you and the bad guy. So you've got a handful of options that you can play. You can play the right card at the right time, but again, only if you see it coming. Another tool we use to avoid the gunfight is verbal challenges. And by that I mean yelling at the bad guy. So you see him coming your way and you say something simple like, "Stop right there," and or whatever. There's a variety of them, but something like that. "Stop right there." And that lets him know that you know, right? The cat is out of the bag. And just that verbal challenge may actually prevent the gunfight. Because he knows you're aware of him, and he knows that you're serious. He can see that body language, that sincerity, that energy, that enthusiasm, this control. Like, I'm in control of this, and you really are. And if he continues to close the distance on you, you're prepared to take that next step. And hopefully he can sense that, and frankly, he goes and looks for an easier victim. He knows that you're not an easy victim. And that verbal challenge, it also turns bystanders into witnesses. They look and they see what's going on, and that witness is going to work in your favor because you're doing everything right. You're playing by the rules, you're abiding by the law. Morally, ethically, you're doing the right thing. You're trying to avoid this gunfight. You're trying to stop him there before he takes that next step. This all works in your favor, both criminally and civilly, as this rolls out, because it's going to happen. I mean, those two steps, criminal and civil, are likely to happen after a gunfight. And when you've got witnesses, you've got a lot of allies, because they're going to say, you know what, Jessica did the right thing. I mean, she backed up, she maximized her distance, she even told the guy to stop. She was left no choice. Yes, she shot him, and it was a last resort. And that's largely what we teach. Well, we teach all kinds of things. But that principle of avoidance really is key to what we teach at FTA and Meta FTA.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Once again, guys, my name is Jessica Blackshear. I'm here with Brad Ackman. Nice to meet you, Brad. Until next time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Have a good one, guys.